that worked on legislation that needs to be changed so that the recommendations of the steering committee can be implemented. There are many legislation that we looked at, but I will only mention a few in the interest of time. But firstly, I'll give preference to special legislation that needs to be given, that we have recommended should be given priority as we move on. The first one is the Persons with Disabilities Act, which has taken 11 years to try and repeal. Your Excellency, we are happy that on the 14th of August 2018, your cabinet in the third meeting adopted a resolution calling for the repeal of the 2003 Persons with Disabilities Act. Secondly, under the special category, we have the Kenya Sign Language Bill, which takes care of the deaf, that should be also fast-tracked. Under the special category, and finally, Your Excellency, on 26th of March 2015, in your State of the Nation address, you offered apologies to Kenyans for the historical injustices suffered, and you directed the Treasury to establish a fund called Restorative Justice Fund. In recognition of that, and to give effect to that directive, we have proposed the enactment of a legislation known as Reparative and Restorative Justice Bill, which then will be considered at Parliament. The essence of this is that all historical injustices, as covered in the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission, will be implemented within a time frame. And you know some of these injustices include the Wagala massacre, for example, extrajudicial killings. People have been assassinated over time. Now the committee has recommended that these be given priority. On the other legislation, which are facilitative of the recommendations that are contained in the constitutional proposals, which my colleague Tom has presented, I will start with the elections laws. There are many of them. One is the IBC Act. The IBC Amendment Bill seeks to reform the IBC. First, to give it strength and independence from any interference. Two, to make it possible for inclusion, for example, when the time for recruiting commissioners and officials, the persons with disability, for example, are taken into account in terms of Article 554(2) of the Constitution. In reforming the Constitution, we are all aware that there is a vacancy at the moment. We only have 3 commissioners. We should have 7, and that was the recommendation of the committee has given. In this regard, a process has been recommended where the existing commissioners will be vetted afresh, as is the case with other vettings that we have had in the past, and then those suitable will continue in office. We are saying that there will be a panel to do that vetting and appointment. So the recommendation is that the 4 vacancies that are there should be filled in the next 6 months. That is the recommendation that has been given. On the Political Parties Act, the political parties have been obligated, when they're doing party primaries, to take care of the interests of marginalized youth, women, persons with disability. And in case of persons with disabilities, there is a recommendation that persons with disability who are members of political parties form an electoral college within the party so that they elect one of their own rather than being given someone to represent them. And then we have made a recommendation under the Political Parties Act, whether we have proposed that all disputes arising out of a nomination during the political campaign or primaries should be resolved by the party, within the party. And therefore, anybody going to the political parties dispute tribunal must show that they have exhausted internal party mechanism before they can be allowed to move the tribunal. And that applies also to petitions. On Election Offences Act, we have made stringent measures, we have recommended measures that any person causing violence be barred from taking part in succeeding elections for 5 years. And again, it has been recommended that where violence is meted against women candidates, that violence will be an aggravating factor. So, for example, if you happen to assault a woman outside the election period, then that will be common assault. But if you assault a woman within the election period, then you will be given a higher penalty or sentence than in ordinary circumstances. Yes, on election campaign financing, there is a requirement, it is recommended that candidates campaigning or seeking state office should declare the sources of their funds. The idea is to save the sovereignty of the country and to ensure that we have the right people in leadership to do the right thing. I now come to there are others, but now we'll go to the police. We are recommending that IPOA be elevated to the status of a commission, a Chapter 15 commission, for purposes of oversight and ensuring that there is discipline in the police force, so that issues of extrajudicial killings associated with the police should be a thing of the past. I have just seen Baby Pendo is here, the parents of Baby Pendo is here. That is something which should be a thing of the past in our existence. I don't want to go further. There are others my colleagues have mentioned, and I would like to leave it there for now. Read the legislation, read the administrative function. Yeah.
Asante sana Paddy Onyango.